Yeah, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. A very warm welcome to IFAD India's fifth. Yes.
1 minute. After the countdown.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah, good morning to everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. A very warm welcome to IFAD India's already fifth webinar. So far, we had around 3,000 participants at our IFAD India webinars, and this really shows quite clearly that we hit the right topics, that we really focused on the right and on the interesting topics. While in the past, or in our former webinars, we rather focused on an Indian perspective, this time we have decided to broaden up and to take a broader perspective. That's the reason why, on the one hand, we have invited international speakers, in particular from Germany, from representatives from our two very valuable partners, GWP and DWE. So warm welcome, Mr. Heidebrecht and Dr. Kuhn. Then we also have a European perspective. A very warm welcome to Mr. Jensen, who will be also the moderator today, and to Mr. Schmidt. And on the other hand, we have also, let's say, included two perspectives: the perspective of the business, of the industry itself, and on the other hand, we have also included a view on the municipalities. So this really will give us the chance to have a really interesting discussion, to share ideas, to share experiences, and also to share lessons learned so far out of this COVID crisis. So I'm really looking forward to this interesting webinar. Once more, a warm welcome. And before we start with the panel discussion, and before I hand over to Paul for the moderation, we would like to show you a quick video on IFAD India.
IFAD has become a very important springboard for bringing about a change.
IFAD India will give a common platform to thought leaders from across the globe to address such issues and, more importantly, to find solutions.
Okay, so now I would like to hand over to Paul, and now the stage is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Katerina, and thank you for inviting me to moderate this panel. We have, I think, an exciting session ahead of us. If I can take anything from our discussion we had early on in the week, the topic is burning, not only the COVID angle, but also the whole water angle. And water is obviously a very serious and very crucial topic for anyone. Us as a human race, and for sure also in terms of business. You were talking about business earlier. The video was talking about solutions and business solutions and innovation exchange. So I think water will remain at the center of many discussions and many businesses and many collaborations across the world, and also specifically pertaining to the EU and India. By way of introduction to myself first, I'm Paul Jensen. I'm the Managing Director of the European Business and Technology Center, which was established a bit more than 10 years ago. The main focus of UBDC is in India and supporting collaborations between European and Indian researchers and technologists and businesses, also in the water space, apart from several other spaces. We're obviously observing a lot of changes in the space, a lot of new ideas, a lot of new learnings Katrina was talking about due to the crisis that we're currently experiencing. And that's what we wanted to discuss today. The EBDC is also part of something called business support to the EU-India policy dialogue. So whatever we pick up here, for instance, in such sessions, is also something that will be fed into the policy dialogue that the Europe and India are actually entertaining at the moment. There's even an Indo-European water partnership, of which EBDC is also part of. So whatever you have in terms of questions, in terms of engagement, this will be noted here and be brought into that whole ecosystem as well. And I'm happy to have with me several panelists, 5 panelists, spreading the range of industrialists, both European industrialists, Indian industrialists, association heads in the water space, as well as standardization, regulatory bodies, as well as experts who are part of projects in the water space, public projects as well as private projects. So I think we have a wide range of people who can answer questions from the audience, but also first kick off with, I would say, about a 60-minute discussion first. And the way I was planning that we could run this, have this flow was, we have said no to presentations as such. We would much rather listen to the expert panelists introduce themselves, who they are, why is water important to them, what is the relation to business and what is the relation to India, and obviously how has COVID impacted their way of operating, their way of working. And they, each of them, I will briefly introduce them, and then they will have 5 or 6 minutes to talk on the topic. And after that, we will have a round of internal discussion here on the panel, and then we will open it to the audience who are with us here today. So without further ado, I would like to invite our first panelist. This will be Mr. Rüdiger Heidebrecht. He's the head of education and international cooperation at the German Water Association. A lot of focus on standardization and regulatory issues, but also on research and innovation. And Mr. Heidebrecht, if you would take 5-6 minutes and talk a bit about what your part of this whole.
Okay, thank you very much. Greeting from Germany here. Now it's 11:30, and you have seen me already in the video. I was planting the trees over there on the last IFAD. You saw me over there, so I'm coming to India to all the IFADs from early starting on. We are supporting IFAD since 1966. I'm the head of the training department in international cooperation in DWA. DWA is a German association for water, wastewater, and waste. We are non-government, non-profit making organization. We are technical scientific associations with 14,000 members. What we do is standardization in the water sector, and that's one part. And even in Corona time, 80% of all meetings taking place, like what we do today here. Everybody shifted to go to webinar and all these kind of things. So that is still running. Standardization has no to deal with wastewater all the time carefully. And you have to avoid the contact with wastewater straight away, not only for Corona, also for hepatitis A and other diseases. So there's no extra precaution for Corona, what we do in Germany, if you stay to the health and safety regulation, which are already in place. Of course, aerosol and splashes should be avoided. You have to cover things. Don't let people go on the wastewater treatment plant. All the wastewater treatment plants are locked in Germany now. Only the stuff is allowed to go. We separate the stuff so they don't meet each other. Be sure that also when you clean the clothes, don't clean the clothes in your private washing machines. There should be a washing machine on site in the wastewater treatment plant. Keep it there. wash the dirty things on site, not at home with your children clothes. So these kind of things you should be taken care about it. I've been to a couple of wastewater treatment plants in India. I saw a lot of children running around close to the aeration basin. That should not be the case. So avoid aerosol spreading and contact to aerosol. I think that is the main picture. On the other hand, water is critical infrastructure. You cannot go home, close it, and throw away the key. That's not possible. So we have to make sure that the organization is running. So waterworks and wastewater treatment plants cannot stop working. So that is very important that the people are separated from each other, to have small groups everywhere, not big units where they all meet and touch each other. Separate the teams, send half of the teams at home to make home office, and then let one team work and avoid contact between teams. So that is what all the operators are doing there. So we gave out a lot of papers to our people, how to make a pandemic planning and what are step A, 2, B, and so on. So a lot of information are available. So I think that is the first statement from my side. Corona is a critical thing, but it's also a chance, I think. Meetings like this would not have taken place if Corona would not be there. So I see it also as a chance for the future. And I see especially water, nobody will kick us out from business. Water is always a business. In car manufacturing and all the other things, tourism in Germany, that's the bit critical things. I would not like to have a Lufthansa Airbus now, because I don't know if Lufthansa will fly again. But in water, I think we are on the safe side. Water is needed every time. So I think that's all from my side at the beginning.
Thank you, Mr. Heidelberg, for your first insights. And you're very right. Of course, it's critical. It's there to stay. You can't just turn it off, and it's something we're going to use for the foreseeable future. And it's not something you can replace easily. I would like to invite Dr. Michael Kuhn, who's a general manager of Kuhn GmbH, operating in the water and wastewater sector. Mr. Kuhn is also the member of the board of the German Water Partnership and is actually engaged in India as well. And it would be interesting to hear from you, Dr. Kuhn, also, apart from your introduction, also the challenges that you faced due to the COVID, and maybe what are some of the learnings you've had, and what are some of the plans you're going to install for the future in a post-COVID scenario. Dr. Kuhn?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. Hello to everyone. I am Michael Kuhn. I am the managing partner of Kuhn GmbH. Kuhn was established in 1926 by my grandfather, so we have quite some experience and history. Me personally, I have never done anything else than dealing with water in my whole professional life, so I think I can talk about water a little bit. Kuhn is a supplier of machines for the mechanical stage of STTs, like we manufacture Archimedean screw pumps, screening, sensing, treatment, and grid washers. As Paul already said, I am a member of the board of German Water Partnership and also a member of the board of DWA, in which function I do moderate web conferences since we have the Corona lockdown. So I'm quite engaged in this topic. We do have a partner in Navi Mumbai called Sorintech, and I have been on each and every IFAD India exhibition since the first event. How did the Corona crisis had an impact on our business? Actually, very early for German standards, we had very early, already in March, we had the first positive tested employee with us. So we had to separate him and his colleagues in his department, of course. So we have a lot of experience by that. So we know that it is very important to separate people, and we did that while having people home office, a setup of home office, which of course is necessary to keep an eye on the security of the whole network system, not just plug in and just to keep on working, so that hackers do have the chance to get into your network. So we had a look at that, and we managed hopefully quite well. And of course, we separated people which were still in the company in one room of one person in one room, so that we have avoided more infections here in the company. But of course, as you know, the disease was spreading also in different ways. So in the meantime, we had 11 infected employees, which was surprising for us. But the good news is that, of course, these people have recovered and are now back and working. None of these persons was in the hospital, not necessary to go to the hospital. So we were quite happy. But 2 or 3 had a real severe disease, and they had to stay in bed for 2 weeks, which is quite a lot. We are happy that the German government is supporting companies and people. So we got a loan from the government with low interest rates, and the bank and a guarantee from the government. And of course, our workers will get compensation because they have downgraded their working hours. Me personally, I usually travel quite a lot, and I'm very often in India every year. Actually, this year I haven't been there, so I have a lot of video conferences like this, and I'm sure this will be kept to a certain degree, that video conferences will replace actual traveling, but actual traveling cannot be replaced totally by video conferences. It's very important to meet you all, to discuss business, to discuss developments in the water business. We're also happy that we have a really healthy order book, and which will help us to really have a head start as soon as the lockdown is will be banned. And actually in Germany, this is what is happening now. So people can now move freely again, and we are really going to work as much as we can. It was important to note when the crisis started that everybody was very, very cautious. And for example, suddenly we did not get access to wastewater treatment plants because the operators, they were afraid to become infected by our workers. So this was a kind of surprise, but gradually it adjusted, and people started to shift and have the social distancing, and so we were allowed to go on the plants again. We even had, like Mr. Heidelbrecht already said, we even had discussions how to keep the plants running, and this meant that we already discussed to lock down people inside the premises of the wastewater treatment plant in order to keep them the plant running, or because you can have remote access to the plant, of course, and this is fine to monitor it, but if something breaks down, you need to be there on the plant and to fix it immediately. So therefore, there were plans to do that. To my knowledge, we haven't need this in Germany. One more thing is we really were happy because we buy quite a lot of our spare parts in India, and we had a real big shipment from India with our parts just before the lockdown. So we are really happy that we have enough spare parts to work on our machines, and so we do not need to focus only on our German market or on European market. We still can work worldwide. One thing I want to mention is that we are still keeping our contact to our partners and customers in India, of course. And during many visits in India, I have seen that we have a lot of polluted rivers and lakes, and more or less all of STPs and CTPs are not in a too good shape, not to say in a bad shape. I don't want to offend you, but this is what I saw. So in my eyes, actually, action is fully needed. And there, German Water Partnership takes the lead and wants to upgrade an existing plant in India. So hopefully in the next few days, we will receive funds from the German government to start this upgrading. And we are looking for a plant where this money can be used to improve the water quality significantly. That's my first impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kuhn. And thank you for sharing the pragmatic insights of operation that you've been facing, and interesting the learnings you've picked up, and also nice to know that you are looking at projects within the sustainability, the environmental space. I think this is also at the heart of our next speaker, Mr. Suresh Kumar, who is the Executive Vice President and Business Unit Head of Water and Wastewater Treatment Solutions at Praj Industries. Yeah, Mr. Kumar, if you could introduce yourself and your company a bit. Also, how have you been affected, and what have you done and learned from this crisis?
Good evening and good morning to all the participants in the webinar. Thank you to IFAT for giving me this opportunity to address all of you. A little bit about Praj. Praj is the world's leading ethanol plant manufacturing company. We pride ourselves on being bringing sustainable bioenergy solutions to the world. And we have 5 business units, out of which wastewater treatment is one of those, which I head as the Executive Vice President for the wastewater business unit of Praj. Quickly coming to the COVID impact, I would say that for us, it has been quite a surprising and interesting time. Quite frankly, we have been pleasantly surprised by the seamless way in which we were able to translate from the office into the work from home. So much so that I think, this is my personal opinion, that even after the COVID lockdown is over, we will probably have a reasonably good percentage of the employees as working from home on a permanent basis, maybe on turns, but it would be, I think, in my opinion, between 25 and 50% can actually work from home. So that's the good thing. Another good thing is, of course, the travel has come down. Therefore, the productivity has really improved well. And fortunately for us, most of our customers are also on the same wavelength. So as far as business transactions is concerned, interactions on business development or project execution, engineering is concerned, has hardly been a blip, I would say, due to the lockdown. So that's pretty good for us. Definitely, we have a reasonably healthy order book. So the day the lockdown is removed, we will be firing on all guns and going forward. Right now, we have a couple of construction sites which have just started working in the last couple of days. So it's a gradual pickup on the construction-related activities. We also think that the wastewater treatment business is looking good right now, all over in our country at least, and the prospect seems good. And I would personally say that the lockdown or the COVID crisis is probably not impacting this sector of the industry. That's my personal opinion from where I sit over here. What has also happened is that I think many of you would have found, and by looking around, that the lockdown has provided an opportunity for most of us to see how the environment is if most of the human activity slows down or stops. And I think people have realized, I think even the layman would realize the amount of, what can I say, degradation that we are causing by human activity. And also the fact that without those activities, still life can proceed. And the impact of that on our water bodies, on our air, on also the flora and fauna in our surroundings is good. So I believe that people are not going to forget this. So once the lockdown is over, there would be at least in the minds of the people a willingness to make some sacrifices for a better environment. So that can only result in good business for water and wastewater treatment. This is my personal belief. On the technology side, I think the coronavirus, as everybody probably can guess, does get into the wastewater through the human feces and other places. So at least in India, we probably were not, having as good an attitude as we should in classifying and disposing the sludge and the biosolids that come out of wastewater treatment. I think that going forward, people will recognize the importance of this. So the classification and the way we treat and dispose of sludge and solids will probably gain more importance going forward. Another thing where I think maybe technology would help is that with the improving awareness of the pathogens that can come in through the air or water and all that, the technologies like chlorination, ozonation, those can gain some more importance. Even membrane systems, would be of help in reducing the impact of this. So that I think would also, improve going forward, and it also means obviously better or more business for all the wastewater treatment sector. That's all I have to say in this introduction, please. Address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar. Yeah, I'm glad to see that you do have the environmental aspect at your heart, and I also hope that this will remain in the minds of people in the years to come and even longer. And also glad to hear that you echo Dr. Kuhn's assessment of healthy order books. No dearth of business due to COVID. Some challenges in operations, but not in terms of order books. If I may turn now to the next panelist, Mr. Sudeep Sangameswaran. He's the Managing Director of PAC Environmental Technology India. If you echo some of the comments that you have heard from Mr. Kumar and Dr. Kuhn, being also operating in this space as an industrialist in India.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, IFAT, and thank you, fellow panelists. It's a good opportunity. I'm still locked down at home. A good opportunity to interact with this kind of a panel and also have an exchange of views. A quick introduction. Sparks is a Dutch company with two shareholders. So there is a German connection because one of our shareholders is Skion, which is also related to the same family that is a majority shareholder in BMW. The other family is, of course, the Parks family, and we are a very old, very well-known company in a niche area, which is anaerobic treatment of wastewater and gas in industry. We've been around for more than 50 years, helping reduce water and carbon footprints. Very innovative company, very small company, headquartered in Friesland, the northern part of the Netherlands. We are very good with anaerobic treatment. We are pioneers there, especially where the wastewater comes from, the process waste comes from sources which are of agrarian origin. So a lot of footprint in paper and pulp, food and beverage processing, marine foods, dairy, sugar distillery, breweries, PTA. More than 2,500 top-class references, a lot of patents in this niche area. We have been in India since 2013 and 2016. Since 2016, we have our own production facilities at the Sri City in Andhra Pradesh. We have offices in Chennai, Delhi, also Bangalore. And the production facility we have in Andhra Pradesh is the best within the parks world, because that's also the newest. We service also South Asia, Japan, and Middle East from here. It's a 40,000 square feet fully fully air conditioned, all new machinery imported from Europe and elsewhere. So because of this Make in India initiative 3 years back, we are already a fairly large player in the industrial effluent treatment, specialized industrial effluent treatment business in India. We have over 45 high rate third and fourth generation anaerobic reactor installation in India. And from being primarily industrial effluent, over the last couple of months, we've also launched a niche product for decentralized sewage treatment, where we feel that we'll have plenty to do for the municipal sector, especially post-COVID times. So that's a quick brief on what Parks is. Let me now come back to the topic. I would like to just probably veer off also a little bit philosophically, because the topic is about how it affects us as a company and a commercial enterprise. You know, like one of my colleagues in the Netherlands is very often fond of saying, we are not in the business of treating wastewater, we are in the business of making money. Right? So commercial enterprises, we also have to have a focus on what is really hurting us, what we are doing internally, externally, how are we facing the challenges. The last 2-3 months have been very, very tough for us, because ironically, 2019 was a very, very big year for us. We grew almost 50 to 70% year on year in India. We were poised to become probably the largest niche industrial effluent treatment company. And then all of a sudden, you have lots of jobs everywhere, you have lots of people, and it's like you've hit a major hurdle, not a bump, not a speed breaker. So how do we react to this situation? Yeah, we have to look at every possible challenge as an opportunity. We are utilizing this time to train, and that's the mantra. Train our clients, train our people. We've used all the technology that is available, very well connected with our parent office in Netherlands for this, lots of support, lots of webinars in the niche industries we service. We're keeping in touch with all our existing and potential clients, and for once, when we are in no pressure to sell, we are trying to listen to them from the point of view of what they want and how we can tailor what we have to what they want. We find that, you know, when there is less of noise, less of clutter, we get a better perspective on industry, the economic thoughts of people who are eventually going to consume our product. Just before the COVID issue came up, Parks has been really driving very furious into 2 areas, which is remote process support and remote monitoring. Now we suddenly find that that is probably going to be the biggest business focus for us, at least for the next 6 to 12 months, because capital equipment orders, I don't think they're going to come back that fast. If you speak to all the CEOs of the food industry, the sugar industry, most of those who consume our capital equipment, they all say that, you know, that the V-shaped recovery might come, but if it comes at all, it's not going to be in 3 months or 6 months. It's going to take more than a year. So then your ability to serve your clients and serve even people who use equipment and technologies from others but are in the similar line of businesses, remote monitoring and remote process support by using the very same level and very same type of skilled engineers. We have nearly 100 people working for us in India. We suddenly find that the same things which you thought could be a liability becomes again your strength. So, and I also feel that internally and externally there'll be very tough discussions on costs. We cannot shy away from that. We have to face that headlong. And at such times, another thing is, no innovation, no idea is bad. You know, we have probably one of the best plastic processing plant and machinery in India today, but we use it for making wastewater reactors. And then suddenly there was a company which approached us. We do the same thing for making the panels that are now going to be needed in increasing numbers to separate the passenger and the driver in cars or between workstations. Can you do it for us? But we never say no, it's got nothing to do with wastewater treatment. but you've got to be prepared for those kind of innovations and those kind of ideas, because it's a short-term measure. It helps the factory busy, it helps us consume our raw material. So these are things which I wanted to share with everyone, so that people keep looking for things also outside of their comfort zones, because the next 12 months, nobody knows. We don't have a template to refer to. So with that, I thought I'll just, conclude my opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your comments. Which did echo, except maybe on the fact that the comeback for business would be a bit slower. Might be healthy order books, but the actual investments might come a bit slower. But thank you very much, and interesting, and glad to see that you're also on the innovation curve, that COVID might actually be prompting you to innovate more and also listen to clients more. Quite interesting. I'll now turn to the last panelist for his introduction. His name is Guido Schmidt, and he is a water expert in his own right, and part of several projects in the water space, and also further sustainability issues. We'd like to know a bit about what do governments do in the water space? How do they support businesses and collaborations to happen? And what has maybe been the impact of COVID on this support from government, or this engagement of government and public bodies in this space to support people like who are here running businesses in the water space? Guido?
Thanks, Paul, for the introduction. Thanks to IFAD for organizing the event and involving the India-EU Water Partnership. It's clear that politicians have to think about what they do next. People are aware, people want politicians, governments to solve the problem, to recover quickly from the crisis. And that's, of course, the first priority. And at least we can approach it from two basic different ways. We can step back to the economy we had before, or we can think about how we can move to maybe a greener economy. Mr. Kumar was mentioning that people now, they have seen India Gate with clear air, so with clean skies. So this is maybe a mindset which has to be addressed by policies for the future. And in the European Union, there is a strong discussion which started already before the coronavirus about the Green Deal. The Green Deal is the growth strategy to overcome now also the COVID economic response. And by the way, also to address climate change, environmental degradation, and other issues which are on the stake at the European level, and to make Europe more resource efficient and more competitive in this context. So the aim for Europe is to have no net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050, to have economic growth decoupled from resource use, to leave nobody behind, no region, no person. And this is the strategy, or how the European Green Recovery Plan is driving a roadmap to leave out of the crisis, see it as an opportunity, as some of the speakers had already mentioned, and to make the EU economy more sustainable, more robust for future. And of course, this involves requesting from and stimulating businesses to create green jobs and to be more active in innovation and sustainability. For example, to invest in efficient use of resources, to promote a circular economy, to approach zero pollution. So even in the design of products, not only when we get at the wastewater treatment plant to get the pollution out of it, but in the design of the products, just to keep them out, for example, for pharmaceuticals, or how to improve the monitoring of water quality, including the digital solutions, which is one of the big challenges and big opportunities also from this crisis and forward steps. And one of the nice examples which has happened, it's really brand new, last week, there was a big hackathon about solutions for the COVID, and one of the teams that won in one of the areas was about how to detect coronavirus in untreated wastewater. And they are currently this team is now doing a feasibility study for a rollout across the European Union, together with a joint research center, which is one of the strong institutions within the European Commission, and just to check how fast this can be done, how much it would cost, and what would be needed for it. And another example, or which could be linked clearly to this, are some of the activities which the India-EU water partnerships are doing already since some 5 years ago, together with the government of India. There are currently 7 Horizon 2020 research and innovation projects going on. They have a budget of something like 250 crore rupees, and they develop and test 60, 70 different technologies for wastewater treatment, for drinking water treatment, and for water quality monitoring. So some of them are already in technology readiness stages of 6 or 7. So this means they could be reused already in business. Some others are still at earlier development stages. But the idea is to get in the next 2-3 years really a big portfolio of technologies that do not only work in Europe, but that work in Europe and in India on both sides. So there are teams from both sides working together. Another activity which the partnership is doing to support the Ministry of Jal Shakti with developing guidance on the implementation of water reuse projects, wastewater reuse initiatives at the operational level, dealing with safety, and also thinking about what would be the benefits for the river environment. Such guidance has been approved very recently in Europe. Yesterday, in fact, the European Parliament has adopted a new decision that wastewater reuse in agriculture should be fostered much more. So we are really, I mean, we're almost at the same pace, level of development in India and the EU, and a lot of exchanges happening and hopefully useful for both sides. And the final element which is happening is we are developing together with the Central Water Commission and with the 3 states river basin management plan for the Tapia River. And one of the critical elements is there to see which monitoring data are available on water quality and on water consumption and water abstraction and rainfall. So we are now checking which data are there, whether they are consistent, which are the data or the monitoring gaps, and how these data can be better brought together to help political decision making and help investments or decisions on what should happen on the specific site level. So in Europe, some of the river basin districts, they have already well-developed monitoring systems. Others are building them up, and we are now trying to exchange on the lessons learned from Europe and how this could be implemented in India. And the Tapia is the pilot basin where we are working on this. So with the partnership, and that's more recent, we're now also discussing how the partnerships could support the government of India in responding to the COVID and to design activities for the green recovery beyond thinking of just only the virus. And of course, the partnership is open to, and as we have been doing for many of the issues, for all the issues which I've been mentioning, to do the thinking jointly with all the stakeholders. So it's a good opportunity also to talk about this today, and I'm open to listening and to discuss this further.
Thank you very much, Guido. A lot of activity going on there as well, and also a lot of support systems. That's good to know, and also that governments are focused on sustainability. And I know it's a challenge. A lot of the questions we have are also relating to that. But so I think we'll start the discussion with you all. There's a lot of items to pick up on. We have prepared quite a bit, but it looks like it's not so much needed because there are a number of questions from the audience, of which there are 645 of you. I'm quite impressed. Now, I think about 30 to 40% of the questions relate to coronavirus inside the wastewater, how to treat it, how do we treat it best. There are many comments. Is it membrane technology that is the best? Is it oxidization that's the best? Is it chlorination at the best? Which other chemical agents would be good? Does it help to boil it? Because we've heard a lot about heat being able to kill the virus. What about the virus if it goes through an anaerobic digestion process? I don't know who of you are the best equipped to answer that. Dr. Kuhn is raising his hand. Mr. Heidreich also. Dr. Kuhn, will you answer some of this to begin with?
Yes, thank you, Paul. We had several analyses of the wastewater, and we found traces of the virus. But we found traces of the virus, parts of the DNA. So the knowledge, the expert knowledge at the moment is that we do not have the virus living in the wastewater. So there is no need to treat the wastewater at the moment. Maybe we learn more in coming time, but at the moment we only find traces of the virus, of the DNA of the virus. So at the moment, the experts say no special treatment is needed.
All right, thank you. Mr. Heidelberg, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I can. That's right, Mr. Kuhn. It's exactly that what we say in Germany. There's no need in the moment because some researchers from the hospital in Berlin, they took some samples and they traced it, but it's not active virus. So there's no need for wastewater to do additional extra work on that. That is so far the information what we have. Also in drinking water, if you look to the WHO informations, what we also publish to our members, they also say that the virus is not surviving that long in drinking water and in wastewater. Up to now, that is a knowledge, because they also look to different viruses we had in the past, SARS virus, norovirus. So there's some information about these viruses which were already in the world a couple of years back. And from that experience, it shows that the waterway is not normally the way of handing it over to the next one. So that is a good knowledge. But nevertheless, yesterday we had a discussion with some people in Jordan. They said, oh, we have to chlorine now our discharge from our wastewater treatment plants. We are not doing that in Germany. We do disinfection of UV sometimes when there's a bathing area and when people really swimming in the water. But of course, in Germany, we have 97% of the people are connected to wastewater treatment plants. Somebody wrote in the chat, 90% of the wastewater in India is not treated. So of course, that is a different way of thinking. Also, somebody wrote, combined stormwater overflows, the monsoon is coming and it will spill over. Of course, but that is not a problem of Corona. It's a general problem of the system as it looks like. Another way what comes up also in Germany, what Mr. Schmidt said, in Germany we have 4 universities now getting money to trace the coronavirus in wastewater, to find out which city or which part of the city where more people living with corona than other parts of the city. This kind of tracing is already common to find out where most of the drugs people living. So you can find out already who lives where, in which city, part of the city are more drugs than in other parts. This is already available, this kind of measurement. And the university is trying to put that also to corona, so that you know where the hotspots by taking samples from wastewater, and then to know where you have distance or where you have to shut down schools and all the things. So if we find that out, it will help us in the future to make measures for preventing hotspots. I think, and last word, I think what one of the speakers said, digitalization, remote control. I think we all experience that this is a thing which comes more and more. Somebody made a joke with me last time. He asked, who is a digital officer and who makes digitalization in your office? Is it the boss? Is it the computer guys, or is it Corona? I told him it's Corona who makes a change of digitalization just now, in Germany at least.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Can one then infer, there are a lot of other questions in the treatment or in the working with sewage and wastewater. How dangerous is it? To what extent would you need personal protection equipment? What sort of protocols should one follow when dealing with that? And if you take some of these samples, say you're dealing with sewage treatment water, you need to take samples, you need to send it to a lab. Are there any regulations, any constraints, any things you need to think about before doing that?
Of course, there are, of course, in Germany, we have a lot of regulation on that. And we also published books about that, how to deal and whatever. But the main thing is aerosol and splashes. So that you have to avoid, to get water in your face and put it to your hand and then spray it with your face. That you have to avoid. So you need good protection on your hands. You need good protection on the mask when it comes to this one. So the surface aeration, these kind of things, stay away a little bit. If you clean something stay away from it and be careful. So you really have to protect your hands to get in touch with wastewater, but that you should do any time, not only during Corona time. And normal gloves, the textile or leather or what is not enough for that. So you need really good gloves for protection, and you have to change the gloves and prepare it. Your clothes should be cleaned nicely in a washing machine of the company and not at your private ones. So these kind of things, you should take a shower before going home, playing with your children. So these kind of things that should be done anytime, even without Corona.
Thank you, Mr. Heidelberg. Mr. Kumar, would you like to add anything to some of the technologies that can be used in addition to what has already been said by the panelists?
Yeah, sure. For the digitalization, we have actually started, and I would like to add here that apart from wastewater, we have another division called Praj High Purity Systems, which actually supplies pure water plants for the pharma industry. And during the lockdown time, also pharma industry was on, and we had to, of course, keep supplying those plants and even new plants, as it was declared an essential industry. And normally these are skid-mounted plants, and when we send the plant to the site, after the customer installs it, a couple of our engineers go there and stay a couple of days and commission the system and come back. But this time, because of the travel restrictions, we could not do that, and our plant is sufficiently digitalized that we could help the customer to commission the plants on their own on the phone and through Zoom, etc. That was another revelation that we could do this all the time. We don't have to do it only in the COVID times. So that was one learning. Another thing was, we are also doing O&M operation and maintenance contractors for some of our customers, and we were doing the O&M for a large steel company in India, and only during the COVID lockdown, we came to know that they were actually classified as a essential service producer because they produce the coated steel, which is used for edible oil containers and food containers. So we were pressed into service to restart the plant just about a couple of days after we demobilized from the site. That was a challenge in itself to get our operating staff from the various parts of the state, with no transportation, and convince them that things are safe, to train them in the appropriate safety and hygiene measures, equip them with the proper PPEs and the new standard operating procedures and all. Within a matter of a couple of days, we were able to restart the plant and put the customer back online. That was also a huge learning exercise for us, and we were happy that we could rise to the occasion when our customer demanded that.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Just an add-on question, Mr. Heidelberg just before mentioned that there was a comment that most of the sewage treatment water in India is not treated. How can we scale that up? What is required to get it even more pervasive, and what should be the measures for improving milestones for wastewater treatment in India? And do you think the technology has seeped into the mainstream enough?
It has seeped to a certain extent, I would say. I will not. There are two, let me call it, distinct sectors. One is the industrial wastewater treatment, which is the segment that we typically address more. And then there's the municipal sewage water treatment, which is typically done to sewage treatment plants, which are run by or owned by large cities or municipalities. We typically usually don't participate in those. But I can say with confidence that at least in the industrial water sector, things have definitely moved in the right direction in the last 2-3 years, and we are happy to be part of that. More and more of the customers are evolved, both because of the government taking a slightly more tough stance, and also because of the realization that this is something that needs to be done because water scarcity is here to stay. Water stress is definitely there in India, and every water that is saved by the industry ultimately is available for farming activity if that much less is used.
So you would also subscribe to what Mr. Schmidt was talking about, Guido, about a lot more reuse of water.
Yes, we are seeing that, but in my opinion, not enough. It is just picking up. It's in the early stages.
Sudeep, would you? Yes, you raise your hand, please.
So just to add on to what Mr. Suresh Kumar says, as far as the municipal sewage treatment space is concerned, that's going to be the most interesting part post-COVID, in my opinion. Because the industrial effluent treatment people are all aware, even the entrepreneurs have moved on the cycle where from treating it as a necessary evil, they have moved to realizing that it actually contributes to the profitability, the wastewater treatment of the processed wastewater generated as in their industries. In the municipal space, we have been for long waiting for large-scale investments and large-scale solutions. I think this is where we will now find the decentralized sewage treatment will become more of a driver. 1 MLD to 10 MLD, maybe 15 MLD, and there'll be more of public-private participation. There'll be a lot more, because in India, it's very easy to see this. Like for instance, the home RO revolution in India. The people just stopped waiting for potable water to be provided by a public utility or by the government. They just decided to take the matter into their own hands, which is why India is probably one of the largest consumers of the domestic reverse osmosis units, which is installed over the counter or on kitchen tanks. I see the same kind of revolution coming in for the sewage treatment segment, and probably it gets accelerated after this situation in COVID.
Thank you. I think you actually hit a sort of, I don't know if you can call it a mega trend, but in many sectors, decentralization is actually becoming a way of going forward. Decentralized energy, decentralized waste treatment, decentralized water supply, decentralized wastewater treatment, and you mentioned that decentralized water treatment plants rather than the centralized ones. I just want to go back and pick up on the topic that one of you also brought up in terms of digitization. I think in a broader sense, there's also a lot of data being collected at all your plants. I don't know to what extent do you actually analyze it and analyze it enough, and can you analyze it better? I mean, if you consider it as big data, is there a way that you can get other inferences out of that data than you're getting today? Is there a movement in terms of the Internet of Things also in the operation of your plants? Are there any other things that maybe even COVID is pushing you to do and think about in terms of operation of your plants and gathering and analyzing information? Yes, Sudeep, you can start here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, because this is something, as I mentioned, this is going to be a big driving force for us at Parks, and we are already involved in such projects in India. For instance, let's take a typical industrial effluent treatment plant. There may be about 20 parameters to be monitored in the wastewater. 4 or 5 of them are primary, and then the others could be derived. And we have remote sensing equipment which can actually predict how the plant is going to get upset or going to work properly. This data is then fed into over a cloud. We have a remote process team sitting at our offices in Chennai, but now all of them can still work out of home offices. They're analyzing. The next stage would be building an app around it, which will be provided to each of our clients. So the utilities manager, even if he is going to be at remote, he gets an advance warning, okay, there's an upset coming on your wastewater plant. You have to take caution. And in these days when people are going to work more and more remote, physical distancing, I think this is really going to be the big differentiator between people who offer plain vanilla solutions and people who can offer a bread and butter solution, but also with this kind of back-end support.
Right. Mr. Heidebrecht, you were talking earlier about, when we spoke earlier, about also virtual reality solutions in this space. And you use it a lot for educational purposes, I believe.
Yeah, we're starting now to make 360-degree videos for wastewater treatment plants. Some of them are also in my YouTube channel. If you look under my name, you find the 360-degree wastewater treatment plant from Germany there. And we give it to our trainees and they set it up and then they go around, look how the wastewater treatment plant looks like. And at the end, they get some magnetic cards. We have 60 magnetic cards from wastewater treatment plant. And then they have to make a flow chart over it. So you see it, the reality, and then you have to do it manually on the magnetic card. So this is a kind of training tool what we developed, and we will use it also for WorldSkills 2021 in Shanghai. WorldSkills is a water technology organization, and India won the gold medal, by the way. So I think Ashwata, he's also joining us here. He's a gold medalist from WorldSkills. And in WorldSkills, we're showing new technology over there because young people who are in education, they should be attached to this one. Also, the company of Festo, they develop a virtual wastewater treatment plant where you can go through it and handle with some cradles and you can move the pumps and everything. This is also a new way of teaching. But I would add some comments to the other topics as well, because I think digitalization will have a lot of change, and we're going to change our curriculum just now in Germany on the water sector. I'm one of the main person to do that. So we're going to change our curricula for the workers, how we train them in the future, because digitalization, it needs a different kind of stuff than today. But the other one is, one on the chat, he asked, oh, in the future, the money is short and they will build more hospitals and wastewater treatment plants. I would like to answer this question. One of our professors in Germany, hygiene professor, he told me once, he said, if you build a hospital and you have good doctors, you get 5 more years to live. If you build a good wastewater treatment plant and sanitation and hygiene, you get 20 to 30 years more to live. So I think that should be our answer to politicians when they should be cut down the wastewater and sanitation because we need hospitals. Then you should come up with these figures. I think that's very important for the whole sector to say we do something for lifelong living for our parents and our children. The other one is centralized, decentralized. In Germany, we have 1 million decentralized wastewater treatment plants, up to 50 people. A small wastewater treatment plant is to 50 people living on one farmland, one farmhouse. We have 1 million. So you need to have that, and I think it's very important. But decentralized in China is some other stories than decentralized in Germany. So decentralized in China means 100,000 people connected to one area. And decentralized in Germany means 50 people. So of course, you have to start with decentralized things because you are not waiting for the central system. You wait for forever. You really have to start on site where the people live. I think that's most important, and that happened also in Germany when you look into the history. So don't wait for central ones, start with the decentralized.
Thank you. Thank you for echoing that. I don't know, Guido, can I just bring you in? There's a lot of questions also regarding government support, maybe specifically financial support in terms of water projects. But maybe you can also give your views on this whole centralized versus decentralized topic.
I mean, decentralized management is necessary. Decentralized sanitation is also necessary. I mean, I fully agree to the comments we have heard previously. And I mean, as India, I mean, Europe is also, let's say, partly or a mixed structure where you have decentralized solutions at all levels. So I mean, it's not about centralizing everything. You won't be solving the different topics. What was the other question you were referring to me?
It was in terms of funding and support from
yeah,
public.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, at the moment, the funding package in the EU is not yet fully clear. There are some discussions about the budget. I mean, as everybody knows, the UK has left the European Union, so we're still in the discussion of how much money will be available. But there's a clear trend that the next budget for research and innovation will strongly focus on the European Green Deal. So that's clear. So everybody who's thinking about innovation and doing something differently shall be looking for these features, which will be really very much highlighted there. But that's still under discussion. I can't give any figures there. Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're available at the policy level, but for sure, I mean, some of the colleagues have mentioned already, if you think innovative, if you look for the opportunities, there will be more and there will be in the water sector. I mean, water supply will be crucial if we talk about green economy, about sustaining ecosystems and the ecosystem services, in particular from freshwater. I mean, we will have to invest more in wastewater treatment, and this is a topic for Europe, and it's, I mean, from what I know from India, it's also a topic from India in particular. I mean, we got on the chat one question about the water supply, which is crucial. I mean, without water supply, it's very difficult. Without a stable water supply and a clean, safe water supply, it's very difficult to deal with COVID. But I mean, it's difficult to deal with COVID and with many other diseases and problems. I mean, it's it's one of the sustainable development goals to assure this. And if this doesn't happen, I mean, I agree. It's not worth to invest in the hospitals. I mean, first we need a clean and safe water supply, and this is clearly within the water sector. And these are the innovative areas where for sure the funding will be going to.
Okay, thank you, Guido. There's just one more specific question to you. Someone would like to hear your view or your insights on nature-based solutions at local and catchment levels for water resource management. And an add-on question, are there efforts to include ecological approach at policy level for long-term management of water management sustainability? I think you already said a bit about that in your intro, but specifically on nature-based solutions.
Nature-based solutions are a great solution. I mean, very often there's something that people have been doing for centuries or thousands of years already, but we didn't recognize that these solutions could also be equipped to gray solutions like engineering solutions, which have developed much later in much of the cases. And very often these nature-based solutions are much cheaper than the gray solutions are. So I mean, I'm not in favor of saying either gray or green or nature-based. So it's not about this, but the combination of using the different approaches, and before investing in one infrastructure, thinking about what might be the best approach. Should we go for nature-based? Should we go for a gray infrastructure? That would be useful. In Europe, this will be very important, at least as, I mean, if we talk about resource efficiency, nature-based solutions, very often they don't require the initial input from resources which is needed for gray infrastructure. I mean, think about all the concrete and the energy you need for major gray infrastructure construction. But I mean, it's not just either or. It's really it's a good approach to think about all the options and then sort out what is the best of them. And sometimes, or very often, it's a combination of both.
Thank you, Guido. Dr. Kuhn, yes, would you like to comment on any of all the insights that we have from the other panelists? Thank you.
Yes, if I can summarize, in my view, what the last three comments were, I like to say that it is important that we see physical evidence. It's nice to talk about centralized, decentralized plants. It's nice to talk about sensors and monitoring, etc. But what we need physical evidence. We need more plants built. However, nature-based, whatever, because everyone who has been in India knows that the rivers are really polluted and the lakes, and we really need to have plants which work. So we first of all need to set up plants, and then we need to look at them that they are operated well. So I hope that politicians and government will set up a bigger budget so that plants can be built, and only when plants are built, then we can help the people and have a better environment and clean water.
Thank you, Dr. Kuhn. To the three of you who operate plants, there's a specific question about how many water treatment plants have online monitoring, and is it connected with a SCAD system to check the variation in online? Would you want to comment on that?
Me?
Yeah, you first.
Okay. I have visited some plants in India which have a very good SCADA system, and which are the sensors are connected to this SCADA system. But most of the plants I have seen have very low-level measuring systems, and even some didn't have any. Still, they filled out their records and had some values of the 5, 6 values we have already heard how to determine the work of a wastewater treatment plant. They still had the numbers on there, but they had no measurement at all, or no means to measure these values at all. So we have a very broad variety of this in India. Of course, we have to make more, and we have to watch it more closely, and we have to watch that the sensors are treated in a good way, that they are clean, they're maintained every now and then, and that they are on the right spot. So there is the possibility to make a lot of failures by installing these sensors, etc.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Kuhn. I'm told we should open the session to the audience for some live questions, and I will hand over to Santosh at this point.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jensen. Let's allow the first question from Somesh Sharma. Mohsin, can you admit?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Sharma,
Yeah.
1 minute. 1 minute.
टाइम खराब करती हैं। बस का एक तरीका है कि आप अपने क्वालिटी वाले को ऐसे में बोल दो कि साले हर ठेकेदार के बिल में तू साइन कराया कि काम ठीक हुआ है, तो सारे काम ठीक हो जाएंगे। काम चला था, अपने कमल को बोल दिया था बिल पे तेरे साइन नहीं होंगे।
Okay, Mohsin, I think he's having a conversation with somebody. Let's go to Rakesh.
Just a minute.
And please introduce yourself, your name and where you're from, and then pose a question to one of the panelists.
Mr. Rakesh,
Rakesh,
ask
are
the
you
question.
online?
Go ahead.
Mohsin, you'll have to unmute him for us.
I'm trying to do it, but it's not happening. Should we go to the third person?
Yeah. While you do that, let's go to Dr. Sudeep Ray. Dr. Sudeep, look at the people who have raised their hands.
Yeah,
there are 9 attendees. Yeah.
So we have
Sudeep Ray,
Rakesh, Mr. Somesh, and Dr. Sudeep Ray. Just a minute. Yeah, Mr. Sudeep Ray is also there.
Unmute him.
No, it's not happening. No. No is.
Let's take the question of Q&A.
Yeah. Go for the next one till you
get
someone to speak.
I think there could be some issue because it's not getting unmuted for some reason. The other side.
Okay, there seems to be a glitch. We should
right. I think now Mr. Dilip can ask the question. Mr. Dilip, if you are online, can you please ask your question? Mr. Dilip Chatwal. Or Mr. Umang Khanna, do you have any question for the panelists, sir?
Yeah, hello everyone.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. Yeah, this is Umang Khanna from International Center for Clean Water, IIT Madras Research Park. So I have a question that as most of the consumption of fresh water in India, it's basically in the agricultural sector. Around 75% of water is utilized in agriculture. But we Indians have never focused on our agricultural practices. When I see the water footprints of different agricultural products like rice, so India is utilizing the most amount of water per kg of rice as compared to other countries, and our rice consumption is maximum in the world, more than China, I think. So there is concepts like virtual water we export. So how do we take that? How can we improve our agricultural practices in that context? Because there also we are utilizing fresh water only. Can we utilize treated water for that?
Okay.
Who would like to
Supam.
take that call, that answer? Mr. Kumar?
Okay, it's a really very important and large question, I would say, covering all the fields actually, not really limited to wastewater or even water treatment. It involves policy on agriculture, policy on rural, water distribution, state subjects. It's a whole lot of things. Even I would say price control, perhaps. But actually, I've written a little bit about this in the past as well. I think to expect farmers, so our country farmers in India to invest, in capital for better water utilization, maybe a taller at the given moment. I would, sort of, revert the question. I would say, okay, the farming sector needs water. We know that they're not efficient, maybe. I mean, it would be lovely to see our Indian farmers using drip irrigation and all that, but I think those days are really very far away. And I don't know when that can ever happen, even unless the farm sector get corporatized and large farms corporate are doing the farming. I really don't think that will happen. So I would flip the question and say, okay, farming, the use of water in farming, probably we will not be able to regulate so much in the near future. But what we can do is regulate the use of water in the industrial sector, which is all mostly corporate, organized, easy to address and all that. So I would say that one of the ways, in my opinion, to go about that, to make more water available to the rural sector, is to put some restrictions and curbs on the availability of fresh water to the industry. I know I'll get a lot of brickbats for this, but I believe that's the way to go, because when you're investing in a large steel plant or chemical complex of several hundreds or thousands of crores of water, investing in a water recovery plant is not such a big deal. So if the policy, policies of the government in the industry sector and all that changes to limit or recognize positively the industries that use less of water, then automatically more available fresh water will be available for the rural sector. I think that is probably the good way, or one of the ways to address this in the short term at least.
I had another question, sir.
Yes, please.
Umang, sorry to be fair to others. Let's take one question from one at a time.
It's a follow-up question related to rural areas.
Okay, quickly, make it brief.
Yeah. So actually, as we can see that traveling is the most difficult part right now due to COVID-19, and afterwards also it will be a risky part, because people may think that he may be a carrier of COVID-19. A person who is visiting a rural area, remote location, to install some water unit or do its operation and maintenance. So how can we sustain the systems now in future that we can minimize the traveling, and we can try to focus more on IoT based systems, and or maybe a local person should be there. How can we do some collaborations or something like that, that we minimize the travel and safety?
Again, that's a very relevant one, and this is something that we've been working on for the last few months, I would say, especially since we also do operation and maintenance of the plants, and many of these plants are coming up in very remote or rural areas where the skilled manpower availability is not that great.
Yes.
We are actually doing that. So what we are doing is, when we take on the O&M, we see what are the things that are critical in the plant, which we can automate, so that one skilled person sitting somewhere can actually look at the plant through the internet. We have not yet done it. We are still, it's on the drawing board. And so that the local actual hands-on operation where the manual or physical intervention is required, those can be done by the people who are located from their own localities. So that we will have maybe not so skilled people actually physically present in the plant, but more highly skilled, decisions are taken centrally once we have all the instrumentation integrated and the data transmitted over the internet to the central location. This is not operational as yet, but this is along the way. Let me put it that way. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I think he acknowledges it. Let's go to the next question. Until unless somebody wants to, add on to what Mr. Kumar said. Can I go to the?
I could add on the water efficiency in agriculture. One of the areas which we address in the India-EU Water Partnership is on water efficiency and productivity in agriculture. We're currently at the concept stage of a pilot in Odisha to see how canals and how irrigation could be used in a more efficient way. And I mean, efficiency investments or water reuse, of course, are key technologies or key approaches to this. But the learnings from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization are also that if you step into these technologies, you first have to think about the water rights system, about water allocation, because if you just step in, just do efficiency, then you just increase water. It's very easy that you simply increase water use. So there has to be a governmental arrangement also about how to account for water and how to manage the water allocation in the country, which should go in parallel.
Thank you. Can we have Paul's question next, please? Paul Hudson.
Question, Santosh.
Mr. Paul.
Somebody else from.
Mr. Paul Hudson would like to ask the question to the panelist.
Hudson. Okay.
Okay, can we move on to Satish if Paul is not in?
Satish, okay. Yes, please.
Question. Yeah, this question is related to because of the issues with COVID-19, you would need a lot of funding to revive the economy. Will there be any effect because of this in terms of paucity of funds for public sewage treatment plants? Thank you.
Who would like to field that question?
Yeah, I go for it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think at least in the short term, there'll be a lot more activity on the infrastructure space and spending of money by the government. That is, it's not typical only to COVID. Any time where there is a recession and a deep recession, that old saying about you pay people to dig ditches and then you pay them money to cover those ditches. So with that kind of an approach to just kickstart the economy, I see a lot more investment and a lot more loosening of purse strings when it comes to investment in infrastructure. And obviously, sewage treatment, especially wastewater treatment, which has a direct impact on communities, will see an additional fillip. This is my personal viewpoint.
Okay. Anybody else wants to go at that question? Fine.
I would say I tend to agree with what Sudeep said. I think there's an old economist saying that you spend your way out of trouble, basically. So hygiene and Swachh Bharat, all those slogans are already there in our country, in India, and couple that with the need to pump money into the people's hands. I think this is one very good way of doing it, and in the long term, it is beneficial for the health of the people as well, which is ultimately in the long term leads to lower government expense on health care.
All right, can we have the next question?
Yes, Mr. Sudeep, Dr. Sudeep Rai, please ask your question.
Actually, hello.
Yeah.
My question is that actually COVID is now a great problem, but before that, somebody told me in your webinar that in case of water, there is no risk point of this COVID. But is there any study? Is there any research? Actually, I'm very much curious about it. Please tell me.
Giru, would that be a question for you or Mr. Heidebrecht? Do you know of any such study?
Yes, yes, sir.
I think there are a
Please
lot
clarify it.
I think there are a lot of studies going on just now. As I told you, in Germany, some universities taking samples now. Of course, COVID is new, so there's no many studies which dealing directly with COVID, but there's SARS and norovirus, what we had in the past. So there are studies around. I do not know directly, but I think the best source is to go to WHO website and to see and read over there. That is also possible. And of course, the main researchers, at least in Germany, the main universities are all dealing with this situation. But I think on COVID itself will be a lot of studies coming in the future. But the older ones we have, I think there are plenty of them available.
Thank you. We'll go in for one last question. If there is time, we can accommodate another one. Sanjay, if you're online, please introduce yourself and ask a question.
Yes, sir. Greetings, everyone. Yes. My question is that which technology for disinfection is preferred wide, or maybe we can have a European and a German perspective on what kind of disinfection technology is better preferred. Is it chemical dosing like chlorination, chlorine dioxide, or some other technology you recommend? Thanks.
Dr. Kuhn, would you want to answer that?
Yes, of course. Sorry. Yes, if chloration, if disinfection is necessary, then worldwide chlorination is a very common mean. But chlorine is dangerous, so to handle chlorine is not so easy. And if you use chlorine gas, this makes it easier, but still you have could have health problems. In addition, if you're using chlorine, you have byproducts which really are poisonous. So chlorine is no longer the good choice to disinfect water. As Mr. Heidebrecht already said, in Germany we use UV light. I personally made my thesis on this topic very long time ago, and this works very good. So if you have a good plant and if you have good technology, then UV is a very good way to disinfect water, even wastewater, but then it has to be very clean and transparent. If you have black water coming in and black water going out, and then you try to disinfect it, this doesn't work, and it doesn't work with chlorine either.
Perhaps another comment. I think in drinking water, chloride is only used for emergencies. So drinking water, ozone is very common. Membrane technology is very, very common, more and more in Germany. And on the wastewater side, whenever I travel around and wherever I see chlorination at the end of the wastewater treatment plant, I see that the American standards are somewhere, or McCarthy Eddy, the book is somewhere around with the designer. So that is, we don't do that in Germany. So we do UV, as Dr. Kuhn said, in summertime and in critical situations. And also in Germany, we're discussing the fourth stage of wastewater because of pharmacy and pharmaceutic and so on. So that's another stage we discuss in Germany now very intensively. And there is the choice of ozone and the choice of active coal. Active coal we know from drinking water process. So this might be also that the last stage of the wastewater treatment plant in Germany might be either membrane, ozone, or active coal in the future. So these are the technologies we prefer. Chlorination is pretty dangerous also for the workers. It's not so easy to do that.
Thank you. Santosh, do you want to still take another question?
I think we should call it now.
Call it a day?
It's already 4:28.
Okay. And I'll just take 30 seconds and I'll hand over to you for closing remarks.
Perfect. I would wish if each of our speakers has something to say or closing remark from them would also be great after you're done with your remarks.
Yeah, because I just wanted to thank them all personally for your very deep, insightful, detailed comments and insights. I think it brought a lot of value to the whole discussion. I was also happy to see that there's generally a positive attitude. I think business will continue. There has been some challenge with COVID, but also some opportunity by way of learning how to use technology in a different way, make commissioning of plants, engage deeper with clients, and we even spoke a bit further into technology issues, digitization, artificial intelligence, big data, and what have you. Thank you all for providing your inputs. I was also happy to see the linkage between policy and business, and there's a lot that can be done. And if you are based in India and you're looking for European technology, European partners, talk to us. If you're in Europe and looking for Indian partners and maybe supporting India in cleaning up water or supplying water or bringing technology to agriculture in efficient water use, also talk to us. We even have a technology engagement cell, which is all about this technology transfer, making collaborations work both at the soft level and the hard level. So please do that. And Santosh, I think, was a great idea of IFAD and Mr. München to put this together. There's obviously a lot of interest with the amount of people who are on here. So maybe you should consider a part 2 of this session very soon. I would be happy to join that. Thank you again, all panelists, very much for joining and sharing your insights. Santosh?
All right. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank all the attendees who have joined us today for this webinar. I'd like to thank our partners, GWP, DWA, EBTC. I'd like to thank the moderator, Mr. Jensen, for being really kind and putting us this content-wise, making this webinar very comprehensive. I'd like to thank Mr. Suresh Kumar for taking our time and joining us for this webinar. Mr. Guido, thank you very much. Mr. Sangameshwar, though it was the last minute thing, really kind of you to join us. Mr. Hyderabad, thank you very much. Thank you, and DWA. Dr. Kuhn, thank you so much. And we'd like to thank GWP as well. I then I think we could start with Dr. Kuhn. We could have your closing remarks and then call it a day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm happy that I could join this discussion, and I will repeat my remark that only if we have physical evidence, only if we have plants on the ground and running, then we do help other people, and this is what we should focus on.
Mr. Suresh Kumar, okay. So we'll hear from
I continue. I'm a training guy, so when you have it in place, don't forget the workers. 80% of the staff are workers, so build it and then train the workers. The engineers are already there. I think that's my remark.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Sangameshwar, and then we could have the.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all the panelists and for IFAD. I think I've just got to conclude with a very positive remark, saying that this may be a challenge. It may put us down, but the water and wastewater industry is going to become as important as oil and gas post-COVID. So in the meantime, we have to survive. So my message to everyone, I keep saying this: and never go out anywhere without a mask. Stay safe so that you're able to take the advantage of the times, the good times when they come.
Thank you to all the participants. Thank you to IFAD for giving me the opportunity. Thank you to all the panelists. It was wonderful, being on the panel, sharing the panel with you, all of you guys. A lot of insights from different types of walks of life, I think, from the industry, from the education sector, from European side. It was very nice to interact with all of you. Did enjoy participating here. Stay safe and namaste.
Thanks also from my side. I support all what has been said before. And I just want to pick up on the comment from Mr. Kuhn. I agree, things have to change on site. Policy is not working on site, but if without policy and without funding, it's much more difficult. So at least what we are trying is just to enable that things change on the ground. But I mean, really, somebody who lives without water, somebody who lives close to a river, has been in the Yamuna, for example, I mean, you know how it usually looks like, and something has to change there. Okay, thanks to you all. Take care.
Thank you all. From sunny blue skies of Delhi.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.